Hello, everyone. I'm Tina Van Leuven, your practical joy alchemist, and your host for the Joy Evolution Summit, where we have the pleasure of spending time with some of the most delightful joy beacons from around the world. And today, I am really excited to be spending time with our beautiful Jessica Miller. Jessica is a success coach and CEO of Brand New You, a life and business coaching company that works with highly driven female entrepreneurs and businesswomen to empower them to make money. After a serious health crisis and the feeling that she was meant for something more, she decided to ditch the corporate grind and go after her dreams. She is passionate about helping others lead their best life, own their time, find vehicles to make significant income, and grow in ways they never thought they could. She likes to call it a self-development plan with a paycheck. I love that. But most of all, she wants to help you reinvent yourself and your business into a brand new version of who you want to be, a brand new you. Remove all the blocks holding you back from making money and unlock your potential so you can create the success you crave. And today, we're going to be talking about Jessica's journey to joy and the joy of making money. Oh, one of my favorite topics, two of my favorite topics, joy and money. I love it, love it, love it. So welcome, Jessica. So great to have you be here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here as well.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Oh, let's dive in. I would love to hear a bit about your journey to joy. What has it been like? For many on this journey, we've been talking about like taking it from knowing about it into the body to
Yes.
actually live it, and that's been interesting and different for everyone. So I'd love to hear your story.
Oh, yeah. It really is a journey for everybody, isn't it? It's always a different journey. Yeah, I would love to say that I started my journey by just waking up and being joyful and incorporating it into my life every day. But probably like many of you that are listening, that wasn't always my journey. And as Tina mentioned, that when I started on this path to being an entrepreneur, it was really after, having some serious health crises in my life, which really sort of woke me up to how precious life is and how important it is to enjoy the ride, even sometimes the tough times. And I would say it really started when, as I mentioned, I had a serious health crisis at age 39. I was 2 months postpartum, and I had a serious heart attack out of nowhere. I had no predisposing risk factors. I wasn't, I didn't have any clogged arteries. It was totally out of the blue, and it sent my life on a different trajectory, as you could imagine, for anyone who's ever had anything serious like that happen. But I think, what came out of that is that this belief that we really get to decide the life that we want. Because even though there are so many things that are out of our control, our experience of it is ours really to choose.
Mm.
And a big part of that journey for me was consciously deciding to find joy in the things that I really wanted, to find joy in my life. I always I always tease people and say, I really love my uneventful days sometimes. As I find joy in that uneventful day because in so many ways it's such a blessing. But it wasn't until I decided to really, choose joy in my life, choose joy in my business, choose joy in the work that I do every day. Like it was almost the secret sauce that everything started to click together, with the things that I was passionate about, with my experience, with my relationship with gratitude. I know that's such a buzzword. We hear it all the time, but sometimes it's really hard to find that. I found even with my gratitude journal, I would sit there sometimes and think, okay, what am I joyful for? What am I grateful for today? It would be hard. And then all of a sudden, when it started to become a habit, I would find those words just kind of coming into my brain out of nowhere. Like, I'm so grateful for this moment. And I think it's in those times, like those sneaky little times, that you really start to sort of feel into what is actually your path and what feels good. And I always tell people, you feel forward in a way. And that's what I started to do. I kind of came out of my head into my heart, literally, which is,
Yeah.
no pun intended. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And then found that was really, that was really the way to kind of proceed, even in the most practical of settings, like, all the things that we do as business women, business entrepreneurs, that was the way that I found my way forward.
Yes. It was an amazing story, Jess. And yeah, I'd love you to share, like, what was it? I mean, you realize, wow, obviously having an experience like that does put everything into perspective, huh? I mean,
Oh
makes
yeah,
you prioritize.
it does.
So then what what happened? How did your business unfold out of this brand new you? Were you already doing that before that, or did that emerge after that?
Yeah, so it was sort of a side hustle. I think maybe people can really appreciate this idea of sort of like standing on that cliff and looking over and over and over and over for a really long time. But I've always been called to be a coach, but I made all of the excuses on the planet. I mean, all the excuses that my clients come to me with when they come, I'm like, oh, I've been there. You know what I mean? I've heard
Yeah.
this story. I'm not buying it. You know what I mean? And the biggest limiting belief that I had was that there were so many amazing coaches on this planet that, like, do we really need another coach? And am I going to make any money doing that? Like, that was the big thing, because I had a successful career. I worked in corporate America. I really enjoyed my job, but I was called to do something bigger, and I was just scared. And those
Mm.
things are really, they're very real for people. They were very real for me. And so actually, this is kind of a funny story, but when I had this horrible health crisis, it was right at the end of my maternity leave. I had just had my son, and I had lunch with someone who had also just changed their career out of corporate. And I said to her, this was before I had my son, I said, her name's Amber. I said, Amber, if I could just go on maternity leave, and they would have to like rejig things, and my position would be changed or eliminated or something, and I could go riding off into the sunset and just be a coach, it would be fine. And lo and behold, that is exactly what happened. The only twist is that I didn't understand that on that journey I would also be recovering.
Mm.
But what it did do, when, as you said, you hit these crisis moments, is that you go through this process of really evaluating and eventually deciding what you're going to do next. Like, it really, like, the liftoff comes in the deciding. It
Mm.
comes when your mind really shifts into belief that, it could be possible, and that maybe there's less to lose than you think, especially after you come out of something that's so earth shattering.
Mm.
And your faith just sort of takes over. But it doesn't take over from like a frivolous, crazy place. It takes over because all those barriers get removed, so you're seeing it clearly. Like, you're seeing what it really is at stake. And that is oftentimes like your dreams, your happiness, your life in a big way. And
Mm.
so for me, that's what it was. And I just decided at that moment, with all the fears and all the mind drama, all right, to just go for it, to just jump off that cliff and kind of never look back. And that's what I've been doing. And not that it's been like a song and a dance the whole time. I mean, we know how this goes, right?
Mm. Yeah.
But hands down, it is what I'm passionate about. It is what I know I'm really good at, and I really love sharing it with people. And so much of that has made it joyous and made it amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm sure that many in our audience can relate, because here's the thing. I think so many times, I know for myself, when I was still working for the airlines, I was doing my healing and coaching business on the side. I knew that at one point that I knew that I was going to be quitting, but it was a
Yeah.
matter of when. It was not if, it was a matter of when. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like, I ended up writing a resignation letter just to let the emotions come to the surface, to let the fears come to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized at one point, I'm not going to know what other fears are going to come up until I've actually taken the leap. And
Yes.
then I was like, okay, fuck. And shit hit the fan. But it's like
Yeah,
one of those things, you got to do it, right?
that's
Yeah.
right. Totally. And there's something I
Um,
think that takes over, that you're like, oh, I'm in this, and now I'm going to just figure it out.
yeah.
Squeaking the whole way, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and why I'm sharing this is because I'm like, oh my gosh, how I wish that I would have had someone like you around back then, because it would have made it a whole lot more easeful, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I'm sure, for many, if you're sitting on that in that phase where you realize, well, you know that there's something else that you've been wanting to do, don't wait until you have a medical crisis or some
That's
other
right.
crisis. Go for it. So I'm really curious, what zaps your joy? Really drains it?
Oh my gosh. I think what really drains it, honestly, is I'm not one for monotony. That kind of gets to me, as you can imagine. I like doing new things. And I'm a very big picture thinker. I'm like sort of a visionary in that sense. I always tell my clients that I can see all them with all their possibilities and none of their drama. I can just
Mhm.
sort of see that big picture. So when I get really mired down in like the monotony of the details, where I feel like we're losing sight of the bigger picture or the bigger purpose, and I feel like people or even I am missing an opportunity, that gets me down. That zaps my energy. I mean, sometimes it's part of the process and we do it, but I don't want to stay there.
Hmm.
So that really zaps my energy. And sometimes I think working with people that where they get stuck so much there, and when you want to help someone and if you're seeing it clearly for them but they're just not quite there, sometimes that can be hard, too. But it's all part of the journey, and you just like fill up your energy stores again and you come back, right? I mean, that's all part of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So on the flip side of that, what sparks your joy?
I love watching people go for it. I love it. I do. There is nothing like watching somebody really go for it, no matter what it is in their life.
Hmm.
When you see it, for me, it's just, just sucked right into that. I remember when I first started doing my business, I would be signing clients and I would come out of, my office or come out of a meeting with them and I would tell my husband and he would say to me, "Who's more excited, Jess, you or them?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Honestly, I think it's me." And to this day, it's still me, because I feel that coaching is so transformative. I work with a coach now. I always will. I've lived that journey, and I'm so excited for everything in their future, especially when it's things that I know are their pain points. Like for many of my clients, it's that playing bigger, it's that stepping into who they are, it's making money, it's living the life that they crave. And I can see it for them. I can see where they're going. And I'm just so excited for everything racing to them when they get into that place where they've decided, right? It's that decision to go for it. And it never gets old. It's just so
Mm.
amazing. So by far, that is the thing that fills me up the most.
Mm.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. So with what you know now and what you've experienced, I mean, looking back at your life at a particularly challenging time or phase, when you would have liked to experienced or known or had access to more joy, when would that have been?
I think it would have probably been during my recovery. I think in those moments where I was so scared on so many levels, I was physically drained. And I don't know if other people do this, but even through the hardest things, sometimes we come out and there we are. Like we are still the same person and we still start to go after these things in the same way that we did before.
Mm.
Like I think my mind was like, okay, I'm alive. Let's pick up where we left
Yeah.
off. Even though logically we're like, everything's different. And then your body's not quite cooperating either, because it's telling you that you need rest, right? And the
Mm.
things that you need to do for yourself in that moment are not coming from your brain, it's coming from your body. So if I could go back and tell myself something different, then I would have told myself to just trust the process. Like
Mm.
go toward the things that feel good, go toward the things that bring you joy, which I ended up doing, but really it was sort of through kicking and screaming half of the
Mm.
time. you know I would have just said, like, it will all work out. You just need to sort of follow your path and have faith that you're doing what you're doing. And I think when you surround yourself with the things that do fill you up, the people. I always tell my friends and clients, surround yourself with those people who like get you and get it. Those people, the things that fill you up, all the things that we think of as luxuries, like sleeping, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
food that's good for you. Like it actually is part of the recipe. It's not some one-off luxury that you give yourself once in a while. And the more that you do it, you will get the things that you think you can't get. Like we're afraid to give up these things for these other things. But really it's like those things we need to give to get the things that we want. And that like love, self-care, joy, partnership, just like you said, finding those people to lock arms with. I would have done that so much sooner instead of kind of fighting the current. I think we get there eventually, but it would have been so much more fun and so much quicker.
Yeah.
And that's what I would tell myself is just go with it.
Beautiful. I love that. And isn't it awesome to see, though, like you say, I mean, you're going to get there anyway, and if it could have happened differently, it would have happened differently. However,
that's right. But
however,
totally.
that moment that where you would have loved to have had that awareness and that support and experience more joy is exactly what you are helping others with now.
That's exactly right. I truly believe like we are the people, like we are on the journey, just like the people that we work with are. Absolutely. It's so crazy how that happens. But you are your client somewhere on their journey.
Yeah.
And I think it makes you better at being able to relate to people. And I really understand it.
Yeah, it's so true. I love that. So let's talk about two of my favorite topics, joy and money. The joy of making money. Let's hear it.
Two of my favorite things too. Oh, I don't know, Tina, if you get this response from people. I think sometimes people think they're like oxymorons. You know what I mean? Like, did you just say that? I don't know if I'm hearing the right thing. I get that response sometimes, but yeah, they're two of my favorite things too. And they are not mutually exclusive. Like they really go hand in hand. And I think one of the things that sort of like brought me to this niche was as I was on this journey and I was spending so much time with in that moment, it was other entrepreneurs, but I think it's people in general, they would be struggling with one of these two things. Either they weren't making money in their business, like cash flow was a real struggle for people, or they were making it, but they were like miserable. So it was kind of this strange situation. And I could understand that because I think when I was standing on that cliff for so long making a change, I thought I was going to be jumping off of it and like shuffling along the streets in my bathrobe.
Yeah. With a bathrobe, such luxury.
I'm like, I love my bathrobe. In full disclosure, everybody, I love it. Like it's cozy, but I mean, I don't want to be, so.
No.
But you have this vision, right, of what's going to happen, and so I think that I started to realize, okay, well, I was successful one time. Maybe this is a fluke, you know what I mean? And then when I jumped and I started once again building and doing that and attracting clients and helping them break through and transforming, I was like, you know what? This is not by accident. And I just got this really strong desire to go out and exchange that energy with people and give them value and make money doing it and teach them everything that I knew. I felt like I had found this reproducible secret. And I'm so passionate about helping people go after that wealth in whatever way that looks for them. If it's multiple millions of dollars, great. If it's, living at a certain level and being comfortable, great. If it's making money and giving it away, great. Whatever that is, I think the energy of that exchange comes when we are like in intention with creating it. And when I started helping people do that and they were in my energy and I was surrounding myself with those people, like everything around us started to change. It was literally like when we put the oxygen mask on and then we gave the oxygen to someone else and someone else and someone else, like now everyone is thriving. And it was such a like amazing phenomenon. And I think a lot of people think that if they have something, they're taking it away from someone else. So like money has that sort of, it has that like mystification around it. And it was, I think it's really important to me to show people like, actually, the more you have, the more you give, you know, and it's really just an exchange of your energy. And if you're coming from that place and you are in that abundance, you have so much value to offer other people, and that value will give them value to offer other, like the whole thing just keeps growing. And it is a blast on the way. You know what I mean? We're all having such a great time, because what's there not to love about that, you know, kind of helping people share their, you know, shed their light.
Yeah, but one of the interesting things, I think that is so fascinating. If we were able to do a Google search in, you know, somebody's inner database of definitely money, and let's see what files come up, there are just so many stories and lies and limitations, and especially a whole lot of judgments that have been passed down through the generations and that society has imposed. And generally speaking, I think on this planet, it's been no pain, no gain. So, you know,
Totally.
yeah. And so the idea of having fun and joy, joy in business, joy in money, joy in expressing yourself, that's like Pollyanna, you know, for many
Oh,
people.
yes.
Yet I always say to people, isn't it fascinating? Why does anybody do what they do? Because they think they're going to have fun. They think they're going to have joy. They think they're going to have whatever it is. So why the heck are you working backwards? You know, it's like,
Yes, totally. Totally.
yeah.
You know, I think one of the things in that vein that really, you know, helped me kind of wrap my brain around it and like talk to other people about it is that, like you said, like we have all these stories, all these beliefs about money. And those beliefs shape what we think about it, what comes up when we're actually interfacing with sharing something about our business, sharing anything, right? All these kind of thoughts come up. And from that place, we take certain actions, like we do certain things, and then we create results in our life. And I think a lot of people think that to create something like money, you have to do a lot of things. You need to like push it, to your point, like no pain, no gain. You need to like work really hard and you need to push the boulder uphill. And if it's not painful, it's not going to yield results. And I'm not here about to suggest that making money doesn't require work. But the kind of action you take from a place of belief and a thought of what is possible for you and everyone else, and that you're capable of it, is a completely different action than when you think it's never going to come and I need to grasp to get it, and you know, I'm afraid of it. Like there's a fear story going on there. You will do totally different things. I mean, just think about anything in your life you do in belief, like this is a done deal, it's happening, like Christmas is coming, right? Like I'm going on vacation in 5 weeks kind of a thing, versus, well, maybe not. And then you kind of like your whole body is just like, I don't want to do this, you know? So it's really a measurable thing as well. It's not something very voodoo. Like you can measure it, you can measure belief, you can measure how your thoughts are creating results in your life around almost everything, money being one of them.
Yeah. And so what have you found that over the years of working with your clients has been the number one limiting belief that's been blocking them from really allowing money with ease and with joy?
Yeah, I would say the number one thing is the belief that they can actually make it. And most of the time it's whatever they consider to be a lot of it. You know, everyone has like a money set point.
Yeah.
And the belief that they can break it, like that their identity needs to shift into that place where they are embodying and being the person that is making money above their threshold, is by far the hardest thing. The hardest and like the simplest. It's not easy, but it's like a simple thing. But it's that identity shift, because once they get there, you know, once they collect the data to suggest that like they are that person, all the results start to come. after that. But that is the biggest gap, like what we think we're actually capable of, and being capable of being somebody that makes a lot of money, whatever that is. Like that identity is the biggest thing.
Yeah. So do you have a tip for artists? Because I'm sure many can relate to this one, or playing it out. And like you say, it can play out in any area of life, really allowing yourself to have and experience what you desire, really. Do you have a tip that people could use to experience a shift there right away?
Totally. So I don't know if anyone is familiar with the work of Byron Katie. But I love her. I trained under Martha Beck, and there was a lot of the work with Byron Katie. And so one of the biggest things that I think helps people kind of move into that mindset is to collect the data. Like somewhere in your life, you are doing the thing already that you want to be doing. And if we talk about money, somewhere in your life, you have created the money already. And so part of this is collecting these results and tying them back to you and the thought. So this idea, for instance, like if your limiting belief was like, I don't think I could make any money. And the turnaround of that is like, I could make a lot of money. Then it goes down to, okay, tell me, 3 instances in your life where you've made a lot of money. And people will go and they collect them. And then all of a sudden you have the data. Because I think that's the part where it's like the mind bender for people. Like you step forward in that first step in faith. Like there's all these thoughts, right? And some part of that thought you kind of buy into, you sort of believe. So
or you want to.
Right, exactly. And so you're okay, I'm gonna do this, right? So that's the first step. But then the other steps come from the data. And a lot of times we just kind of like wipe those things free. Like even I said to one of my clients recently, like, okay, let's take all of your fears and pretend they happened right now. Like what I was saying, like pretend you were shuffling on the street in your bathrobe. Like, what would you do? And then many people say, I don't know. I don't know what I would do. And I was like, okay, well, what would you do if you knew? You know what I mean? Kind of push it. And then they come up with it's there. And immediately, I mean, people get really creative, right? Because all that like fear is stripped away. But when we're like mired in it, it's hard to see it. It's really, my advice would always be collect the data. But if you could find somebody that you trust and that can hold that space for you, whether it's a coach, a mentor, like whoever it is, that is when you, I think, really can like dig into it, because they're holding that space for you. And they're asking you the questions that you wouldn't necessarily ask yourself. I think good coaching is asking questions, even good self-coaching. It's really about asking questions and answering them, So I would say, go collect the data. There's more data there than you think.
Yeah, it always reminds me of like, you're building I call them the inner shitty committee, so our inner shitty committee are the ones that are like, you get this great idea and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, but, yeah, exactly, right? And then you're like, okay, hang on, we're going to the courthouse here. So inside somewhere, you got a part of you you're going to defend this case. So let's look for evidence here. You're building the case.
You are. Totally.
And I think one of the things that's interesting there is that in our society, and I would say, especially, I've seen this play out more with women than with men. Men don't seem to have as much of a challenge to be amongst their male buddies and to go, to talk about their successes and to really celebrate that. But for many women, that's like a real taboo thing, as if you are showing off or you're, who do you think you are? And so to be in a space where you're just not used to, generally speaking, to celebrate the amazingness. So it's like you have to get into the space of getting used to going, you know what, I'm freaking awesome. Look at this. So you have to get used to looking for the evidence of that, right?
Yes, totally. And we like wash it out so quickly. I mean, we really do. It's like we discount it. And that is, you're right, it's extremely dangerous. Like, you really have to be intentional, just like collecting these pieces of data. You need to be intentional about looking for the celebrations, like looking for the joy. And then, like I always say, like using it as data. Like, I did this thing, I feel awesome. Like, there's a direct correlation between this, right? It's not by
Yeah.
accident. Like, I had this thought, I felt like this, I did this, and this was the result. Wow, that's a thought I really want to have. You know, this is how I really want to feel. And yes, doing it over and over until it becomes a habit.
Yeah, I love that. So for our audience, if you're not already a member of our private Facebook group where we are hosting the Practical Joy Experiment, then please do come and join us. And even if you don't feel like being on Facebook, then partner up with some friends or buddies and take this on. This Practical Joy Experiment is about taking some of the nuggets that you have heard from our joy beacons, and maybe Jessica shared something here today, like this part of nuggets or something that you're wanting to create, start looking for the evidence. What if you were to apply that in your life, right? Because one thing is there is so much inspiration available everywhere, and it's great to receive that. I know that people are being incredibly inspired by these conversations, and that's awesome. And I'd love for you to have the experience of actually doing something with it. So you are taking it from here into your body, applying it in your life. Make that a new habit. What if for the next 30, 40 days, you choose to look for evidence of how capable you are, how amazing you are, what you have created, something that you're afraid of, and yet you did it before. So wow. And write it down, so that you have a place where you can go, my God, and watch what happens. Wouldn't that be a fun thing to play with in this experiment?
So cool. And watch your world like change before your eyes.
Yeah,
Really.
so love that. So one of the other things here, because this, I love too that you offer these Get One Thing Done intensive, or is that in collaboration with Jennifer?
Jennifer, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So for everyone watching, Jennifer's movie was our very first Joy Beacon in the summit. So if you haven't caught her interview, make sure you do so. Oh my gosh, the two of you together, holy macaroni.
I know. Talk about fun and money. Oh my goodness. She's having a great time. Yeah. She's amazing.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that, because I think oftentimes I'm sure that also many people, have you found that people are either really big picture thinkers and then find it difficult to narrow down, it's like where the FOMO kicks in, it's like, oh, the fear of missing out onto the next shiny object, or that people are so detail oriented, but they don't have the bigger picture, and so there's no inspiration. So Get One Thing Done intensive, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we really set this up in a way to help people make progress on something, have fun doing it while they're doing it, and then also help them, because both of us are coaches and we're there holding the space for people, help them get coached on what might be coming up as they're struggling to get through that, or if they're hitting a hurdle that's keeping them stuck. We are actually there to help them. So the way it works is it's 6 weeks. It's an hour and a half every week. Right now it's on Fridays. Probably will be going forward. We'll see. But basically it's an hour and a half. We talk about what people are focusing on. What do they want to get done? What did they do in the last week? We have an hour time where people can literally get things done. And we are on standby to, basically they can message us and we can talk them through something that they're struggling with. And then we come back and we share it with the group. And then we declare what we're going to do the next week. And not only have we seen so much progress people have made in the time that they're working, actually physically in that hour, but we've seen that cumulatively people have shifted. Like, not only is it not hard to get it done, like they've given themselves the time, they've set the intention for that time, but they're gaining momentum. Like, little actions gain the momentum. They collect the data and then it just builds on itself. So there's this transformation of like who they believe they are as far as somebody who can get things done in this 6 week time period. And that's true of everyone. You could be like the big picture person or the detailed person. Like, you find your groove and then you have all these people around you that are exactly like you said, cheering you on in the Facebook group. we're all getting things done. And we even threw in a fun thing so that there's prizes every week for your wins. So we make it fun. And it's an awesome group. I would encourage anybody who's struggling. It's virtual. Anyone from all over the world can be part of it. It's a great group, and you get stuff done. So it's better than that.
I know, I love that. And I think that's one of the things. I think so many people have to have a list of all their things they would like to do. I always say to people, well, when? If not now, then when?
That's right.
People say someday. Well, have you ever seen a calendar with someday? I'm sure there must be one out there somewhere.
Right.
But
in the garbage somewhere.
Yeah. And how much energy gets wasted on saying, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna, and then never getting it done.
Yes. And I think on that note too, Tina, the amount of time and energy we waste on the spin out of what we think we should be doing instead of just doing it, that is what takes the most time. When people say they have no time, that is where they're losing their time. And we've all been guilty of it. Like, syndrome around a to-do list, right? It is real.
I remember years ago, one of my clients said, if you want it, you find the time. If not, you find excuses. And how many times have we done that? Let's say that you say you want to go and hop on your yoga mat, or you're going to go to the gym, and by the time that you've had the discussion in your mind as to all the reasons why not to go, you could have already done a whole workout.
That's exactly right. And then you self-sabotage by missing the class, right? Because you're like,
I love it.
Our stories and our excuses, we're not that ingenious about it. It's the same thing over and over. Like, it really is. So
the beauty there is that since we've got plenty of exercise and experience, shall we say, in looking for those excuses, the beauty is looking for the evidence of that you can do it, and you can use that energy for that.
That's right. That's exactly right.
My, I love it. Well, anyway, we'll put the link below the video so that for all of you watching, go check it out and go get things done. And oh my gosh, we're at the end of our time here. I know we could talk for so much more. So great to be with you, Jess. So any parting words for our audience?
Parting words would be, you are more capable and more amazing than you think. Go after what you want, and go out there and find the data to support that you are meant to be doing it. There is nothing in the way of everything you want except for your thoughts, but you get to choose what you think and do next, and you can do anything. So that would be my parting word.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your light and your joy and your brilliance here with us, Jess. And for everyone, go forth and let joy be your guide to a life that is worth waking up for every day.
Absolutely.
Yay!